So guys, you're all very welcome here tonight. This is a module developed by Croke Park. It's getting started with club chairperson role. As I said, whether you're new to the role or you're existing club chairperson, these are great opportunities to learn something from. The whole key and the whole opportunity tonight is just to take one thing from tonight that you didn't know about before, or take multiple things that you didn't know about before. It should give you a good understanding of what your role entails. So a couple of the topics we're going to cover tonight then would be...
over the road?
Yeah.
Fair fucking better.
If there's people on mic, could you mute the mic? Just... So guys, the areas we're going to cover tonight are what the role overview is and what key responsibilities you have as a club chairperson, what a well-run club looks like, how to make your club a little better, that's one of your key roles, how to get good people involved, again, volunteering. Look, it's great to see such good numbers out here tonight because look, it is a volunteer role and people are giving up their time when they could be doing other family-related stuff or work-related stuff. So it's a good sign that people are committed to the role when they go to sessions like this. Managing meetings, again, one of your key roles, and where to get additional support and additional information. So firstly, role overview and key responsibilities. So before I get started, one of the key things you have to take on board is that you're not the first chairperson with the club. There has been somebody there before you. So when you take on the role, there has to be some form of onboarding process you get. So you have to meet the previous holder of the role to get an understanding of how he found the position, what do's and don'ts he had, what difficulties he had, what were the positives, what were the negative. Excuse me. You have to get an understanding of what the guidelines are of your role. You have to get an understanding of, is there any special equipment that is used or any software I should be using? And like Croke Park are exceptional in terms of providing us with software to do our duty. We've all been given GA email boxes. We all been given a suite of tools through Office 365 to use for free from Croke Park. Like these tools, if you were to buy them personally, there's a substantial cost included in it, but they're given to you by Croke Park as part of your role. So when you're onboarding, you have to make sure that you've been given access to the email account. You have to make sure you've access to the relevant SharePoint. You have to make sure you've access to the relevant data associated with your role. So these are just a couple of points that you need to make sure you've done with your previous chairperson before stepping into the role. And like you have to ensure that you get introduced to the relevant personnel within the county board. Because look, I won't say it's a small community, but the people in the county board are key stakeholders and key people that will help you within your role. You have to make sure that you've been introduced to relevant people in your club, because a lot of people might take on the role without knowing who's on the executive committee within the club. So just make sure you get introduced to these people. Make sure you get introduced to relevant personnel at the provincial level. Have you been told who to contact for help and advice? Do you know how to access the additional resources? Do you have the password to the chairperson account? All these relatively kind of simple things to think about, but they're key to your role. You need to make sure that you get all this information from your previous chairperson before moving into your current role as chairperson. Because as I said, you're not the first chairperson for the club. You are taking over from somebody else. So somebody else has made the mistakes. Somebody else has formed the relationships. Somebody else has established strong relationships with people. You need to get all that relevant information passed over towards you. So a quick overview of what your role will entail. So you will be the principal
Mike,
officer.
Just before you go on there, Mike, maybe it's important to note that for an LGFA or a Camogie only club, so if you're a one club, if you're part of a GA club, that the Office 365 package will be there for your chairperson role. If you're part of an LGFA or Camogie club, your club will have an email address, but you probably won't have an individual officer email. So just if you're inquiring about that, your secretary will have access to that as well.
Perfect. So this is a quick slide showing the quick overview of what your role is. So you're the principal officer of the club. You're heavily involved in planning. You're heavily involved in organizing. You're heavily involved in managing affairs, leadership, hold effective meetings, decision makings. And some of these roles we'll touch on throughout the presentation, but that is a quick overview of what your role entails. And as you can see, it's a busy role. And we all know clubs where it's a single person running club. You cannot take all the responsibilities of a club on your shoulders. That's why we form a committee, and that's why an executive committee, and that's why subcommittees are key within a club. A club that has zero or no subcommittees is probably not a club that's been run effectively. I'm not saying it's a bad club, but it's probably not been run effectively because that would appear from the outside as if one person is running the whole organization. And that's not what you want to do. Because if you were to commit to that, you're looking at 20, 30 hours a week. And as I mentioned at the start, this is a volunteered organization. This is a volunteer role. You don't want this to be a part-time job. You need to trust and delegate jobs and tasks to people within your executive committee. Some of your key responsibilities are ensuring that the club's affairs are managed effectively, developing a shared vision and plan for the future for the club. One of the key roles one of the key objectives as a chairperson is to make your club a little better. Within your term as chairperson, your objective should be, it's better when I left than when I started. That's one of your objectives. It's better when I left than when I started. So that you have to develop a shared vision and plan for the future of your club. Uphold child safeguarding procedures, promote games and culture, upholding rules and policies of the club and association, chairing club executive meetings and representing the club. You have to remember as club chairperson, everywhere you go, you are representing the club because people will know you as club chairperson. Some common tasks, and look, you can throw into the script a few more common tasks that you may have already been involved in, but match tickets, selling match tickets would be a common task you might do. Presenting medals, presenting awards at the end of matches. That's another common task club chairperson will do. Meetings, chairing meetings, involved in meetings, another key task from a chairperson perspective. The facilities within the club, managing the facilities, ensuring the facilities are open, ensuring the facilities are closed and locked when they're not required. These are some common tasks that every club chairperson may not need to be doing himself, but needs to understand that they are being done effectively by his club executive or by trusted individuals within the club. Is there any other common tasks people can think of that they have already completed or are planning to complete as club chairperson going forward? And you can write into the chat just to get some ideas going. So like you could be selling lotto tickets or doing a 50-50. You could be organizing county players to come to a fun day or the last underage training session of the year. They're all just simple tasks, and like they could be endless. And I'm sure everybody here has had some experience in terms of what tasks they've been involved in. So, what does a well-run club look like? And now this is where I'm going to ask some people to put some points into the chat. So, Croke Park have kind of developed this kind of jigsaw scenario where all these pieces come together to form a well-run club. And like this is just a sample base. Like the list of what a well-run club looks like could be exhausted, but here are 12 pieces that what a well-run club looks like. The first and foremost is the club constitution. And whether you have 20, 30 members or whether you have 2,000 members, it doesn't matter. The club constitution is the foundation to your club. If you're unaware or unsure what the club constitution is, that's one of the key takeaways tonight is get an understanding of what the club constitution is. It basically sets out the rules and regulations of how a club can be run. But as you can see, there's 11 jigsaw pieces missing. So what other pieces would make a club well run? You can put a few points into the chat there, or come off mute and speak if you need be.
Yeah, and I'll keep a view in the chat there, Mike, as well. Just on the club constitution one again. If we have any LGFA or Camogie members in, it's important to note that your club won't have a club constitution. Your governing document will be the official guide of both those associations. So for LGFA, the LGFA official guide, Camogie, the Camogie official guide as well. Just a couple of things, Mike. We've got been approachable by any member is part of it. Having your club board, having volunteers, and I suppose that means recruiting volunteers, having people in the right role, being someone that actually goes and looks for volunteers and people to help within the club as well is what a well-run club looks like. See what else comes in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're great points. And like we all do have an understanding of what a well-run club looks like. And that's our role as chairperson to knit these pieces together to form the complete jigsaw. So within this, Krug, and as I said, Krug Park have completed this jigsaw, but it's not in, like there's so many facets to what a well-run club looks like. This is just an example of what a well-run club looks like. So we have points like we have club constitution, games development, management structures, the AGM. The AGM is a key yearly meeting within a club. Effective meetings. So when you're running meetings, like tonight now we were to kick off at 7:30 and we kicked off 7:30, 7:31. So if you agree a time for a meeting, you stick to guidelines. We have an hour and a half tonight. We may be finished early, but we will try our best not to go past the 9 o'clock. We will not go past, ideally not go past the hour and a half. The same thing can be applied to meetings. If you've a 1 hour meeting, it's the 1 hour. As I've repeated a few times now, we're volunteers. I'm not going to go to the clubhouse at 6:45 for a 7 o'clock meeting and the meeting not kick off till 7:30 and I'm there till 9:30. I'll do it once or twice, but if that's a consistent team, I'm eventually going to say, no, I'm not going to do that. So effective meetings are key. Club policies. You need to document club policies. Facilities and properties. Another key foundation to a club. You have your fields. You have your clubhouses. You have your changing facilities. Some places may have handball alleys. Some places may have floodlights, but your facilities and property are key. Volunteers. One of the people on the call tonight put volunteers in the chat. Volunteers are key. You do not want, you cannot run a club by yourself. You have to have a strong executive team around you and a strong, trustworthy group of volunteers to run your club. You have to create a sense of purpose and planning. So, as I said, as club chairperson, one of your takeaways tonight is, how can I make this club a little better within my term? You need to have great communication. As I said, you're a spokesperson for your club. You need to have good communication in public, in group sessions, and on individual sessions, on an individual basis. You need to have a good understanding of finance. The finance is key. Clubs came through COVID 4 years ago, maybe 5 years, probably 5 years ago now at this stage. So the club's revenue went from probably, I won't say thriving, but creating revenue, to during COVID nothing. And property and facilities still had to be maintained. The grass still had to be cut. You had to make sure that the property wasn't being broken into or misused. With no finance coming in, there's still finance going out. So you have to keep an eye on your finance. Health and safety is another a good element that what a well-run club looks like. So your role is a very varied and complex role. Like, you're going to be involved in decision making. You're going to be involved in chairing meetings. You're going to be involved in negotiating. You're going to be involved in making arrangements, motivating people, affirming people, monitoring everything. Like, I've commented now that you don't need to be doing everything yourself. You just need to make sure that the work is being done. So one of your roles is monitoring and ensuring this work is being done. You need to be out and about. You need to be at the club games. You need to be at club training sessions. You need to be at the AGM. You need to be at the club meetings. You need to be out and about representing your club. You need to be consulting with. You need to be consulting with potential construction engineers if you're building a new clubhouse or extending it to a new clubhouse. You need to be consulting with potential county board members. Planning, as I said, you need to plan for the future. You need to be organizing things. You need to be organizing referees. You need to be organizing training mentors. Games development, challenging people, talking to people, managing conflict. They're just a short list of how varied and complex your role is in the future. And I'm not trying to frighten anybody here, but this is just the sample list of how varied and complex your role is. And again, I'll go back to, without a good team around you, you would struggle to maintain a strong grasp of the role. That's why you need to get strong structures wrapped around it. And as I said, if your club has only 1 or 0 subcommittees, I won't say it's a poorly run club, but it needs to vary. It needs to grow in terms of subcommittees. And one of the elements that Croke Park have provided to the clubs within the organisation to help us with planning and help us with how to get our club a little bit better is the Club Compass. So the Club Compass, if people aren't aware of it already, it's an online self-assessment tool that will give the clubs an understanding of where they are now. So it's a self-assessment tool. It's available online through Fern. You log on, I think it's one of the tabs in Fern. There is approximately 20, there's approximately 110, 120 questions within it. And they're simple questions like, does your club have an appointed referee? So some of these are yes or no, but it's a self-assessment to get an understanding of where your club is. Once you complete the self-assessment, you submit it to Croke Park. And don't worry, there's nobody eyeballing these. There's nobody saying, oh, Club A is better than Club B. Nobody's doing anything like that. This will give you a club report of a score between 1 and 100 in terms of what your rating is. And out of this, you will get recommendations in terms of what you should do, what you could do, and what you must do to improve your score. And it's a free resource being given to you. Like if I was to go away and get an audit of a company I'm working with, I'm paying 20, 30,000 euro to get an audit carried out. This is a free assessment given to you by Croke Park. Out of your club report, you have to create an action plan. And if you want to get accreditation, you can do now through the Unfirm. There is a video here. It's relatively new to Croke Park. And I would see, did I share sound? Can people hear that? Can people hear the sound coming through?
No, it's not working for me, Mike.
No. Okay, bear with me so a second. I'm gonna have to reshare with sound.
I think Mike's possibly frozen on us there. So just when we're waiting on him to come back, he's 100% right there in terms of what Club Compass can do for you. Even if you're not ready to go for an accreditation yet, actually to go on and do the report on your club and help you figure out. So Mike talked there about all the varied roles, the wide-ranging roles of a club chairperson, and Club Compass is a tool that can really help you figure out where your club's at and where you would like to go to. Just when we're waiting on Mike to come back in, there's a couple of things came through in the chat. Someone mentioned about being the heart of the community there, and I know it's not up in the slides, but that's a massive part of being a leader in your club. And as I says, the club leadership development program, that being the chairperson, you are the lead volunteer in your club as well. It's easy to forget that, but being about community, being about inclusion, being about not just, I suppose, winning and it being the beginning and end of your club comes from yourself as a chairperson too. There was another question coming in there just around supplying approved software packages, and at present it's not something that happens. But if you go on to Tubber, which is the Gaelic Games sort of education hub, I'll put a link into the chat shortly after. There are a number of resources for your own role and for that role as well. And I know, Joseph, you've come in on another chat just around the treasure one. There's a full breakdown of that in the treasure module, and we'll see when we get that sent over to you. I wouldn't have it at hand at the minute. John has come in there with a question just around subcommittees as well. So guys, maybe you can type into the chat yourselves the different subcommittees you have in your own club. I'm currently vice chair in my own club, and the different subcommittees we would include. You've obviously got your games development, maybe coaching and games is a subcommittee. Was actually speaking to someone yesterday of a coaching and game subcommittee, but also a game subcommittee in terms of allocation of pitches and use of their club pitches. So that might be something you look at as well. There's obviously got like a grounds committee if you have your own grounds in terms of being a GAA club. LGFA and Camogie clubs probably wouldn't have to worry about that, but those are things you should look at as well. There's some things that come in through the chat there, like health and well-being. It's obviously massive in our clubs now, and obviously healthy clubs has become a big thing as well. So we've got that. Games development, communications, facilities, fundraising and grants. So again, it's a big area now, so it might need a subcommittee instead of just maybe a fundraising officer or someone who looks after grants. Culture and language, and having a cultural side of your club. You could even think of having a community subcommittee. You've got your costume and rogue, so you might have something to look after youth in the club. And again, depending on the setup of your club, you can see the things coming in through the chat there. You might have specific subcommittees for the specific codes in your club as well, or you might have something very, very specific to your own club. So again, giving you an example from my club's Aughar St. McCardens in Tyrone, where our newest subcommittee is a bingo subcommittee, because that's a sort of a regular event that's going to happen now in the next while. So again, if anyone else wants to type into the chat, I think we've lost Mike in terms of his connection might be down. So I'm going to upload the rest of the presentation, and we'll work through it till he comes back. If you give me 2 seconds. So if anyone else has any thoughts on what other subcommittees you have or you are thinking about having, type them into the chat there as well. And we'll get this up. So just when we're getting this to load, some of the stuff we have. So a match day committee is a really, really good idea. So if you're hosting X number of home games a year, that you have people who are going to be there and working around those as well. You have a lotto committee. Yeah, definitely lotto's probably something that most of our clubs do in terms of a fundraiser. So that's something that you could have as well. Maintenance as well, yeah, definitely. So even could be a pitch maintenance committee. Could be something that looks after your facilities too. Admin and governance, definitely. Yeah, that's some great. There's some great suggestions in there. Yeah, 100%. I'm going to try and get us back to where we left off, and we'll take it from there. So I think this is where we was here. Can you all see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. So we left off talking about Club Compass, and if any have seen the Club Compass tool, it is really, really good. It's a really useful tool. There is an accreditation piece of it that has recently been launched. It was launched around September time. So Mike, I think was going to mention that. We've obviously got our must do's, could do's, should do's. So we've got that part of it, which is your club report. But after that, you can actually upload some evidence, and you can accredit your club as a Club Compass club. So you can be different levels. So depending on the evidence you upload and the score you receive in your report, you can get an accreditation. And there's a number of different recognition pieces that go along with that that accreditation as well. So there's more information about that on each of the Gaelic Games Association's websites, and I'll put a link in here very shortly just to that. You can see there learningga.ie /Club Compass will bring you that as well. Just for anyone that's wondering where you actually access Club Compass. So you all should have a Fern account. Generally at the minute, your secretary will have admin access, and possibly your registrar will have admin access. And the Club Compass tool is located on the admin tab on your clubs on your Fern account. So it'll be up to whoever manages your club's Fern account, whether that's your secretary or someone else, to give you access to that as well. So you wouldn't need administrator rights, and that can be done within your club to be able to access that. But that's just so you know how to actually use it. It's on your Fern account. So we're going to move on to the next step, and that's how to make your club better. And I suppose it's the big question for all of us. And before we might get into the actual bones of the presentation, I might throw it out to the chat again. How are you making your club better, or how would you make your club better in your position now as chairperson on the 15th of January, you're coming into a new year. How would you aim to make your club better at the minute? So type into the chat for us there as well. And while you are doing that, we'll keep an eye on it. But I suppose we talked about planning. We talked about having a bit of a mission or a vision, and your role as a leader in the club. And part of that is figuring out where you want to go to. So the main purpose of what we're doing here, the main purpose of you as the club chairperson, you're trying to make everything a bit better than you found it, okay, and leave the place in a better place than you found it. So what does that look like? We in Gaelic Games have a club planning program, and the purpose, I suppose, of having a club plan, and we can get into the details of strategic plans versus operational plans, and plans that look great on paper and sit on a shelf, or things that you actually do. But the nuts and bolts of it is to figure out, I suppose, where you are now, where do you want to go, and how are you going to get there. So if anyone has a club plan, you maybe type into the chat, or if anyone would like to unmute themselves, and even give us a wee idea of how they came up with a club plan, or if they're thinking about having a club plan, that'd be great as well. But if not, type into the chat there, and there's some great stuff coming through in terms of how you actually want to make the club better. So there's things like getting more coaches trained up, improving communication, recruiting more volunteers, collaborating on a club-wide survey, applying for a lot of stuff around accessing grants and applying for more grants, but even things like having defined roles for officers. That's really, really good as well in terms of making your club a better place. We mentioned about this being a really wide-ranging and varied role previously, and the amount of stuff you're putting in here, it's probably not all possible for you to be able to achieve this as a chairperson. But if we take the first one I saw there is about getting more coaches trained up. Well, your job as a chairperson there can be ensuring that you have a club coaching officer, that they know what they're supposed to be doing, and that they're carrying out their role as well. So it's about thinking, how do you want to make the club better, but also what your role is in it, okay? So we do have, again, the club planning program can help you with that. It's basically a self-led guidebook. There's a number of different resources, and through the club planning program, you can get a facilitator to help you if you like, and someone can be provided by Gaelic Games and the staff at central level, and the provincial level, or you can use the guide yourself as a club. And if you have capable people in the club, which most of our clubs do, you can actually work through that yourself and come up with your own plan for the next 1 year, 3 year, 5 years, however long you like, you know. But it's all available for you there, and I'll stick with the link will be in the presentation that's sent to you, but I'll throw all those links into the chat at the end of the presentation as well. So we've talked about how you want to make the club better. All right. So what I want you to do now, and you don't have to type this into the chat, I want you to think about how you as the chairperson can actually make your club better. So we've all got the wants. We know what we want to do, okay, and we know where we want to be. But how do you as the chairperson actually make that happen? Okay. So if we think about reflecting on the year ahead, you know, I want you to just take a moment. You don't have to type this into the chat. Write it down on a piece of paper, write down your notebook in front of you. What 3 things are you going to do? And not, I suppose, what our hopes are. What 3 things are you actually going to do to try and improve your club in the coming year? Jimmy, that's two very good ones you've threw in there already. And if anyone wants to share them, that's okay as well. But that's a great one there. Establishing a group to actually look at a club plan is a really good one that you can do straight away to try and improve your club. Excellent. And when you're doing that, I'm going to try and find a couple of these links here, and we'll share them with you. There's the Club Compass one that's just went in, and there's our the club planning one as well, just so you can take a look at. So we'll give you maybe another 30 seconds just to have a think on again yourself. What are you going to do to help and improve the club this year? What 3 things are you going to do? What tangible things are you going to do to try and improve your club this year? And we might move on then onto our next section, which is again about getting good people involved. Okay, so it's the key, isn't it? Having the right people involved in the club, having the right people in the right roles, and above all else, having good people that are willing to do the job, that are good at doing their job, and that have the interest to stay doing their job. So again, before we actually get into the nuts and bolts of our presentation here, I might ask you, because again, the main knowledge is going to be from yourselves here. How do you get volunteers involved at the minute? What kind of things do you do to get people into your club to help out at the moment? There's a great one just in there at the minute, just before you do that. And I don't think it's answering this question. I think it's back to the three things you're going to try and do this year, but it's probably the number one thing that'll help good people come to your club and help the right people into your club. And that's building a positive culture within your players and your officers, within your whole club. There's an idea, and I suppose I said at the start, my role is head of volunteer development with the LGFA. There's an idea in volunteer management, which we'll get into a wee second, which you all are as chairpersons of your club, because you're going to manage a team of volunteers throughout the year. There's the idea of the positive and successful volunteer experience. And to break that down, right, that means that if you ask someone to do something and it's really, really hard and they have a terrible time at it, they're not going to do it again. Okay. I know that sounds a bit simple, but the idea of volunteer management and getting people into your club and getting people to help out isn't about making them do something. It's about getting them to want to. So why should people get involved in your club? Why would people want to be involved in your club? And what makes your club stand out for volunteers, apart from they have a child playing for the club, or someone in their family is involved, or they were asked to do a job? So why would people get involved in your club apart from that? And a big part of that is that it's a place people want to be. It's something that people want to be involved in. So there's some great stuff coming in there again. One I don't know who this is. It's Anne O'Connor. Has just put in about inviting people to assist on a subcommittee and then feed that into a committee. So, for example, a Gaelic for Mothers and Others subcommittee that feeds into the overall ladies club committee. Really good. I think is that Nicole from East Belfast? I think that's you, Nicole, is it? Brilliant. That's a really good example of it. Because again,
it is indeed, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was you, Nicole. So that's great. But that's a really good example. So giving people a simple task that they'll be able to do really, really well, and that'll get them into the club a bit more. I think my first involvement in my own club, I was in as I was actually asked to go to the AGM because I was told the senior team needed a physio and that they needed players down to help vote to get this physio in. And when I walked into the room, I was told, "Well done, Niall, you're the new youth officer. Congratulations." So I was in there under false pretenses, but that's something that happens up and down the country where we sort of rope people in and we maybe don't tell them the full role and we maybe don't tell them exactly what's needed, but we just need somebody to do it. And it's probably the wrong way to go about it. So starting by giving someone a small job, getting them in to help out, and then gradually feeding them into the club is a good way as well. Jimmy has come in there and said personal contacts. Some people need to be asked. Some people are really shy, and that's a really good point as well. There's probably two groups of club or people in every community when it comes to Gaelic Games clubs. And the first one are the people who are doing a lot, which is like yourselves. And you're probably wondering, why is nobody else helping out? But there's probably another group that are out there that are thinking, well, nobody ever asked me. Why would I get involved when nobody ever asked me? So it's the type of thing that nobody's going to pick up the phone and say, here, can I help out? So it's about approaching people. And sometimes people are too shy, but also sometimes people like to be asked. And I suppose we'll maybe get into it later, but send a text message isn't going to do it. You generally, when you ask someone, you have to go and ask them, whether that be face to face or picking up the phone and speaking to them. It's far more effective than sending a generic Facebook post or a group message saying, can anyone come out and help? Because that's nobody's gonna. It's like one of the old Western films where you see the tumbleweed rolling down the street. That's what happens when you send one of them. So having that personal touch of actually going and ask someone's a really good idea as well. We've got some good things like community engagement, going to local primary schools, letting people have access to the facilities, parents, engaging them to volunteer. Really good idea. And there's a lot of stuff around tapping into the local community, and that feeds back into being part of the local community as well. And it's great to see we've a couple of people on from South America, and you had Roger over. I know we have Sharon. Are you still on with Sharon? Sharon Haughey, you still there, Sharon? Sharon's from Ulster GA on with this evening as well. But I know Roger was out with you there in South America, and that's brilliant that you're in here as well. So we can see Gaelic games happening internationally as well. We've seen in Europe, we've seen in different parts of the world that being part of a community and establishing that foothold in the community is a really good way of getting people into volunteer as well. Things like young leaders, and then big one, and that's probably my favourite yet from Tom Barry. There's identifying the skills of people in the community and introducing them to use their skills in the club, and that's key there, because you might have somebody who is the best treasurer your club will ever have, and if you ask them to be the PRO, it mightn't go too well. So figuring out what people's skills are and how to get the best out of them in their club is a really good way of getting good people into, you know. A big part of this is figuring out that you can't do it yourself. You know, you need to get people involved. And a big feeling that a lot of chairpersons make in their first year especially is thinking you can come in and change it all yourself. You know, and I know that's probably a hard one to hear, but it's true. You can't do everything yourself, and when you try to do everything yourself, something's probably going to fall down. So they need to delegate. They need to bring people with you. They need to bring people in and engage and involve them as well. It's really, really important. So I suppose if a key responsibility of you as chairperson is to actually get as many people as possible volunteering for the club. And I'm not going to sit here in front of you and say that's a really, really easy job, because it's not at all. But if it's something that's central to what you're doing and you decide as chairperson, our big thing is going to be, and our focus is going to be getting people to help out, it becomes easier for more people to actually go after that as well. And we mentioned at the start about the complex role of a chairperson. Some of that as well is actually, you know, having the vision to go, our coaches are going to coach, our secretary is going to look after administration, our treasurer is doing a good job in terms of finances. I'm going to start activating people here and trying to get people involved in getting people involved and having that as your focus, and it'll mean that other people focus on it as well, you know. So we mentioned at the start as well about having our committee and having our club board, but also having our subcommittees. And I know we've had a discussion around that already, and we've got so many good ideas around what subcommittees to have. But if anyone's operating without subcommittees at the minute, it's probably something you really, really have to look at. That it can't be up to 2 or 3 people to run the entire club. And when you share the workload, you're halving, or you're taking away from your own time and your own burnout, and I suppose the involvement you're going to have on a long-term basis within the club as well. We mentioned it earlier, but there's just an example of some of the subcommittees that you could have in your club. So again, this example here, we've got our board and OG, our games development, our finance, and what others. Now, we've already went through this, so we'll not go into it again, but we've already answered a lot of this about what other subcommittees you would have in your club. And if anyone else has any more ideas around subcommittees that you use yourself or you have an idea for as a subcommittee within your club, throw them in there now as well. But Nicole mentioned it there, I think, in the chat, is that you might have, right, and if we go by our rules, so in terms of our GA club, you have your elected officers, and then you can have between 5 and 10 more as part of your overall club committee set. I think the maximum that makes is about 21. In terms of LGFA and Camogie, it's not just as definite as that in terms of how many people you can have on your committee, but you've obviously got your elected officers. So not everyone who wants to help out might want to be an officer in your committee. Not everyone who wants to help out might want to go to every single committee meeting of every year and be involved to that level. And some people might tell you they don't have the time to take on a role, and that's okay. We can't discount those people, because I suppose most people on the chat tonight are going to be people that, as they talk about, are at the club 7 days a week, and that's brilliant. But someone who's willing to give their expertise and their time and their help for one specific role, that might be a fundraiser, that might be looking after the youth side of the club, that might be a specific role around finance of the club. A subcommittee is a brilliant way to get them involved. A subcommittee is a fantastic way to actually get them to give their time, their skills, but not expect them to be something more than they can give to you. You know, we're going to speak about delegating now, and I'm going to throw up a slide in a wee second. But again, I want you maybe to type into the chat for me ways you delegate at the minute. or if anyone has any experience of delegation in their role at the minute. I know some of you are very, very new, so I don't expect you to have massive experience in this. But some of you, if what are you delegating at the minute is the question I'll ask you. What do you think? Yeah, John makes a great point there that you can delegate, but you need a check-in, and that's part of delegation as well, is actually the check-in on it. So it's a great one. Colin Mitchell, I might get you to unmute yourself, Colin. There.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Colin, what do you mean by heads of subcommittees? Are you delegating specific roles in the club to them and letting them work away?
Yeah, so like the treasurer more likely lead the finance subcommittee, and whatever other committees, someone leading the development committee. They're maybe not in that executive role on the committee, but they have, basically an executive role because they're taking on that head of subcommittee role. So
exactly, yeah, brilliant. What
it's really just letting them be responsible for it and drive it, whereas the chairman can't do everything. So they kind of lead it and go in different directions that you haven't thought of. So
yeah. What club are you at the minute?
It's College Land O'Rahilly's in Armagh.
Wait, College Land, very good, very good. You're not too far away. Yeah, exactly, brilliant. So that's excellent. That's exactly what we're talking about in terms of delegating. But I'll throw up the slide just so you can all see in terms of how do we delegate. So the answer probably in terms of my question is what do you delegate? There's very little you can delegate. It depends on. There's very little you can't delegate. Sorry, it depends on what you're willing to give away or what you're willing to lose that wee bit of control on, which is very hard in your role as a chairperson, but you'll find that sometimes it has to happen, So in terms of what you can delegate, you have to identify that. So it's identifying the task, right? What part of your role as a chairperson is maybe taking up a lot of time, is maybe something that your vice chair could take over, is maybe something that, as Colin said there, a member of or head of a subcommittee could actually take over as well. So identifying the task is a big one, Then we have to identify the suitable person. So you might have someone with a specific set of skills that'll be really good at whatever you want them to do. You might also be saying to someone who's maybe not skilled in that area to go and do something for you, and they're going to fail. So it's about identifying the right person. And with the jigsaw at the very start, but this is a wee bit like a jigsaw as well, because if you have the wrong person in the wrong place, the puzzle is not going to work. The picture is not going to come together. So identifying the task, identifying the right person for the task. The next part of that then is explain it really clearly. So this is the bit where delegation probably falls down. For some people, and I'm sure we have a number of people here that aren't new chairpersons and they've been here for a number of years, and you might have a really, really good understanding of what exactly you do on a daily basis and what all your jobs are. That doesn't mean everyone else in the club understands that as well. So you could have something that's happening there, and you could be giving it over to someone else, and they haven't the faintest idea what you're talking about. So you need to explain really, really super clearly, and have real clarity, and actually check that they understand exactly what you're asking them to do when you're delegating a task as well. And somebody had, I think it was John Murphy, put it into the chat there, but making sure you check up. So when you delegate, there's no point standing over somebody's shoulder to make sure they do that. But you do have to keep in touch. You check in with them, you offer support, you see how things are going. So I'm going to ask you again, right? If you want to type into the chat there, what kind of things as a chairperson do you think you can delegate now? And we'll talk through this maybe. So what kind of things could you delegate? Think of your role specifically as a chairperson now as well. So you're going to have your subcommittees, you're going to have your officers, you're going to have people doing their specific function in the club. So if we take an example of if you're going to delegate your monthly financial reporting to your treasurer, it was too late because that's already their job. So what kind of things can you as a chairperson do that can be delegated out? So Deirdre makes a good point that the tasks are generally delegated at monthly meetings, and it's important to reiterate and maybe ask a week after the meeting and ensure that's been done. That's a great point, Deirdre, because Yeah, and it's great you say that, because at our monthly meetings there needs to be actions, and there needs to be people that are responsible for those actions, and it can't always be the chairperson. So there's a real good example to delegate that out. It could be something like a broken window in the changing rooms. It could be something to do with your pitch. It could be something to do with the grounds. It could be getting a manager for a certain team. All these things, and then check in. You have a month between each meeting. Check in maybe a week, 2 weeks. And go, look, how are you getting on? Do you need any help with that? Really good one, Deirdre. Nicole there again is community relations, or having somebody to manage a specific relation. And that's something I was thinking about when we were talking about the role of the chairperson, because part of your role is actually being that visible person and being the chairperson of the club. And if we take back to Colin there in College Land, you have a number of clubs around you. You're beside the Moy, isn't that right, Colin? So you have a load of, you have Mahary and you have Ballyhagan and places like that in beside you. And you obviously are going to have a working relationship with those clubs. You're not going to never talk to them, but it mightn't be up to the chairperson to foster that. It might be your coaching officer, it could be your secretary, it could be different people. So maybe hand that over as well. And obviously, Nicole, you're talking about your own specific context. That's something that has to be done as well. And you might have to delegate that out too. Really good one as well. Pitch bookings, management, fundraising, and lotto there from Shane. And yeah, Shane, definitely, if you're doing all that, I don't know when you sleep. So that's definitely ones that you have to delegate out as well. So that's a really good one, and hand over that responsibility. And here's the big thing about delegation, is that sometimes we're afraid that it's not done exactly how we would do it, and that's why we don't delegate. And we can't get into that mindset. If it's been done the way someone else is doing it and it's being done, that should be okay. As well, it mightn't be done exactly how you like it. So things like pitch bookings and management, people are going to have their own spin on how that's done. Fundraising, it mightn't be your exact idea of what way to fundraise, but if someone else has that idea and they're willing to put the work into it, that's good enough, So there's some great stuff coming in there as well. And the last point in terms of delegation is that when somebody does something that you've asked them to do, acknowledge the job well done. Nobody's here to have a pat on the back, and nobody's here to be told how great they are. And again, I work for the LGFA, but I'm also heavily involved in my own club. As I say, I'm the vice chair, and I have been for a number of years. And nobody's there to be told how great they are, but everyone wants to be acknowledged for a job well done. And that's not just through a delegation. That's through anyone who's doing any job. The acknowledging people when they are doing their job well is so important in terms of getting people to stay volunteering in your club and stay in your committee and stay involved as well. Some great stuff coming in through the chat there as well. And just again, I would ask you to think, if the things you're writing down again, are they actually the job of the chairperson? So I've seen one there coming in social media, and I suppose that's something already that your PRO or your PR committee should be doing, rather than the chairperson maybe taking that on as well. And it's not that you can't do it, and it's not that you shouldn't be doing it. I suppose it's just that you have so much to do already that's something that should maybe be done by someone else who has that role in the club as well. And Olivia, I might get you to unmute yourself there, because that's a really interesting comment you've just put in about recently hosting the Clare Kerry game.
Yes, that was it. Clare Castle GA.
Massive undertaking.
Huge. It was huge. Aye. But it was again. I was pretty much, once everything was organised and we had notification from the Munster Council, it was gathering the volunteers, gathering the students. It was a massive undertaking, or the stewards, it was a massive undertaking with parking, making sure people were parking safely. We had other events on there that evening. We had Clare Camogie there as well that night, because we've 3 pitches, all floodlit. So it was... It was down to the volunteers, it was down to the people, community engagement, getting as many involved, even throughout the day, because we were pretty much up there from earlier on that day to organise. Club were arriving, all, different, I suppose, different groups arriving, and also making sure the teams were taken care of as they arrived. So it was a busy evening.
Yeah, and I'm going to assume you didn't do all these things yourself.
Not at all. I was directing traffic. I was literally going around with a clipboard and just putting people in places, and I suppose mitigating risks, I suppose, is the big thing. And just ensuring that everyone had what they needed and that it was available promptly.
And how many people do you think you had helping out?
I had a total of 97 that day. So yeah, it was.
Yeah, and a lot of planning going into it, and a lot of trust, I suppose, in different people that they were going to do their bit.
Yeah, it was. But I mean, everyone was on board for it because it was, you know, they were delighted to have the opportunity, and to, you know, present the club, you know, just for our facilities to be used. It was a nice, I suppose everyone, any of the volunteers, they were just delighted to come on board and help out.
Yeah, really good. That's a really good example. Thank you for that, Olivia. And it's great. Just by this is a bit off topic, but how many members would you have in your club?
Total, I suppose we're a one club model, so I used to be the registrar. So we have, so across the board, it's 841 members, as of last
841.
year's figures.
Okay, and you had almost 100 of them helping out in the day.
Yeah,
So you had an eighth-year club helping out.
yeah.
Very, very good. And that's so I suppose if we exercise for you to do, you don't have to type into the chat here as well. But go back to the three things you said you were going to do to make your club better. All right, the three things that you're going to actually tangibly do to make your club better in your role as chairperson. And what I want you to do now is write down someone that can help you. So write a name beside each point. Write down one person that can help you. You know, or can help you. Mightn't have to do all of it, but could help you with a wee bit. And then after we finish, you have to go and talk to them, and you have to go and ask them. You know, so that's the point of this. So we can't just go, right, they could do that, but I'm still going to do it myself. So if you know someone who can help you, ask them to help you as well. You know, that's a big point too. You know, I suppose the last thing I'll mention in terms of delegation, and this is one you think might be common sense, but it's why you should do it. You know, sometimes, as I say, if a chairperson, if a secretary, if a treasurer, if the executive committee of a club take on everything themselves, it maybe it might decrease motivation from other people to get involved. So bringing more people in, it's the same as our playing population and our squads and our teams. The more people you have there, the more competitive, the more intense, the better it will be. And I suppose as well as that, you're not only developing your own skills, you're developing skills of people who could potentially be the next chairperson, could be the next treasurer, could be the next secretary, by giving them wee small parts of the role to actually take on. You're distributing a bit more work throughout your group. So that's making people feel included, but it's also taking that burden off yourselves, because we'll see now in the next while, but there's a bit of research been done around, I suppose, volunteering at club level, and the number of hours being put in by club officers is pretty frightening at times in some cases. So taking a wee bit of burden off yourselves, really important as well. And then I've mentioned there about the succession and identifying the next person that's going to come on. And you might be coming into year one as a chairperson the minute going, I'll be here for the next 10 years. But after 2 or 3 years, you go and look, life has changed. There's different circumstances. I need somebody to come in and take this on to the next level, or replace what I'm doing at the minute. So identifying people to be your successor is really important as well. And delegating wee small jobs can give them a wee insight in what it's like to be the chairperson as well. Another big aspect of being a chairperson is, and we talked about it slightly there, is managing meetings. So we have a number of meetings to manage. And you're going to have meetings throughout the year about a whole load of different things. We've got obviously our club executive meetings and our meetings that we have to have by rule. But you might have a number of different meetings that you have to chair unexpectedly or ad hoc throughout the year. So again, I'm going to ask you, what are the features of an effective meeting? What does it look like? What does a good meeting look like? What keywords come into your head when you think of a good meeting? Deirdre's come in straight away there with the agenda, massively important in terms of your meeting. I'm going to ask you, maybe Deirdre, to unmute yourself there, right? And Congo has come in there with it as well. So in terms of the agenda, what is the chairperson's job there?
I suppose that the items on the agenda are relevant topics for discussion, and they're not going to take up massive amounts of time, that they can be actually managed within the time frame that we have for the meeting.
Absolutely. And thinking about what actually is going on the agenda, and what do we need to talk about? Because I know my own club for a long time, we had, how's the senior team doing? How are the underage teams doing? is there anything come from the county board meeting? Did anyone die in the area? Do we need to say prayers for anyone? That was a point of the meeting, and it was just sort of into that sort of routine of we're going to talk about this every month, no matter what. So part of your role as chairperson is actually thinking, right, what do we actually need to speak about as a committee here, or what, as anything has to be on the agenda that wasn't on it last week, and actually setting that agenda and not just going off the same one that we've had, the template that we go through for years and years and years. That is what actually needs to be on that agenda. So that's a really good point there. Just thank you, and Congal as well. John has come in there and said that it starts on time. And John, I might bring you in here. Can you unmute yourself as well?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, John. So why is it important it starts on time?
One thing I do is at the start of the meeting, I ask people, what topics do they wish to raise under AOB, and I stick to that, so that also it gives you the entire meeting to think, right, what could they be raising under, footballs under AOB?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of starting on time, you would set out that is that the first thing you would go after? Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
So starting on time as well. The reason that's so important is because if you don't start on time and you continue to not start on time every meeting you ever host, people are going to start turning up late, and your meeting's going to run over again. And we talk about starting on time. It's even more important to finish on time. To be honest with you, that's probably even more important than starting on time, because if you go into a club committee meeting and it's supposed to be an hour and 15, an hour and a half, an hour long, and you're still sitting there 3 hours later, it's probably the most surefire way to make sure half of your committee members don't come back next month. It's really important that if you say your meeting's going to be an hour and 15, an hour and a half, whatever it might be, that you stick to that as well. There's a couple of questions in around AIB, and John has come in there and said so you would lay out AIB at the very start. Other people might not have AIB on the agenda. I've heard some examples, and I think it's a really good one. There's a lot of people have removed it from the agenda. Some clubs ask for any other agreed business, so that if someone wants something brought to the agenda, that it's sent to the secretary, 2 days before your monthly club meeting, and it's agreed. And then for you as a chairperson, there are no surprises that are gonna come up when AIB time comes. So that's really good as well. There's some great stuff in the chat there again, even around meeting etiquette, timekeeping within the meeting, about how people talk, all that kind of stuff. So
apologies, guys. There, I dropped off there. I was talking away to myself for the last half an hour.
I was thinking that, Mike, you were froze for a while. I'm delighted you're back, so I'm going to hand back over to you. We're just at the tips for running meetings here.
Perfect. Apologies, guys. I didn't actually realize I was actually dropped off. Bear with me now in a second. I'll get to that position on the slides.
Yeah.
So you should see that's the same slide you're on there. Niall, was it?
Yeah, we just moved on to the next one.
Excellent. Perfect. So running features of running effective meetings. So as club chairperson, one of your roles is running effective meetings. So I just need to see where that is there. So meetings, obviously, look, one of the key points is you need to start and stop in time. So we started tonight at 7:30. We're aimed for 9 o'clock tonight. So it all looks good at the moment. So starting and stopping on time is one of the key tips to running effective meetings. As chairperson, you need to exercise your authority. You are chairperson of the meeting. You are chair of the meeting. If you feel the meeting's running over or is going off track, you need to exercise your authority. You need to ensure that everybody is treated fairly and with respect. You need to keep things on track. You don't want things dragging on. Don't allow talkative members to dominate. Encourage quieter and younger members to contribute. Don't allow discussions to drag on and on. Look, we've all been to meetings where discussions drag on and on and on. As chairperson, you exercise your authority to ensure that that doesn't happen. Get the meeting to make a decision. With all meetings, your meeting needs to have a purpose. So If the meeting has a purpose, ensure that that meeting has a decision. If possible, some meetings, like, it may overrun, but if you have a meeting from 7 to 8 and you don't have a decision at 8, don't drag it on to 9 o'clock. Don't extend it. You have to draw a line and say, right, look, we're a volunteering organization. A lot of people cannot commit to 2 hours or 3 hours a night. If a meeting is 1 hour and I've committed to 1 hour, the 1 hour is what I'm committing to. If the decision isn't made at that, you put a halt to meeting and say, we'll adjourn this in the next meeting, and organize the next meeting and agree the next meeting before you leave. Say, right, we never completed it here. We'll meet again next Thursday at 8 o'clock and we'll get this decision made. Manage the discussion and don't lead too much. Like, you as chairperson, you may have an opinion, but you have to have a neutral attitude and you have to remain impartial. So you might say, right, I want to go in this direction, but you can't ultimately lead the discussion. You were one member of a broader club. You don't want to be a dictator, because if you come across as a dictator, people won't volunteer, people will shy away from you, people will step away from roles. You have to remain neutral and you have to remain impartial. You have to manage phone issues. So look, we're in the age we are. Look, phones are everywhere. Some people have multiple phones, between work phones and personal phones. So how do you manage phone issues? One of the things that I used to do is, when I was chairing meetings, I'd put a cup on top of the table, and that for every ping during the meeting, whoever's phone pinged, I'd say €2 into that cup. And throughout the year, that money added up. And it wasn't a case of, oh, happy days, it's a few pounds for me. I used that money then for a volunteers night out. So I gave the volunteers a night out into the year, and it paid for some finger food and a drink each. I won't say it paid for the whole lot, but it went a long way to paying for that night out. And that's a simple way of saying thanks to the volunteers. So that's one method of controlling phone issues. How do I deal with difficult behavior? So we all have been in meetings where, and look, this isn't Croke Park putting this information together. There's been a lot of academic research put into all these kind of people. So these are what's been identified from different research and different kind of theses that Croke Park have leveraged and put into the presentation. So everybody knows the quiet one. So everybody knows the quiet person in the meeting. How do I manage a quiet person in a meeting? Everybody knows a selfish person. How do I, as chairperson, manage the selfish person? The intimidating, angry one. How do I manage that? The overly agreeable one. The negative one. So the quiet one is like, you try your best to coax them out and so you call on them during the meeting saying, John, what's your opinion on that? Get them talking about it. The selfish one, you cut him off. You say, Stephen, thanks for that. John, can I get your opinion on that? So you have to exercise your authority in terms of chairing a meeting. The intimidating one, straight away, you need to cut that out. You say, Mary, we'll stop it there. I'll talk to you after the meeting. In that way, you're acknowledging that she has an opinion, but you're saying, I'll talk to you after the meeting to discuss it. So you're cutting that behavior out straight away. You don't want that kind of behavior to fester and grow, because the last thing you want during a meeting is a roaring contest. You need to exercise your authority and say, right, leave it there. I'll talk to you after the meeting. In the story. The overly agreeable one. So everybody knows an overly agreeable person. That you put anything in front of them and say, yeah, perfect, sounds like a great plan. So how do I manage that? The negative one. So the one that's consistently saying, no, don't like that. No, I don't think that'll work. How do I manage that? So you as chairperson need to think about these type of roles, and because every club has them. Every club has a quiet one. Every club has a selfish one, an intimidating one, an overly agreeable one, and a negative one. Everyone has these kind of people. So you need to start thinking about, how do I manage that? And how do I manage it effectively without annoying people, without being too domineering, too dictatorship? You need to have an understanding, how do I approach that? And like, that's something you can plan now. So that we all know these people within the clubs. You can plan that now. So, okay, if the overly aggressive one comes to the next meeting, I know exactly what to do. I can say, I'll stop you there straight away. I'll talk to you after the meeting, one-on-one. Leave it at that. And if they continue saying, no, you're chairperson, exercise your authority, say, no, outside, I want you outside now. You can exercise your authority as chairperson and say, right, I'm not listening to you. You have to leave the meeting straight away. So we all can start planning how to deal with this kind of behavior. As chairperson, when it comes to actions, so we spoke about the club compass. You saw the video on the club compass, and the club compass, there's two elements to it. There's the self-assessment and there's the accredited. So the self-assessment, the video said it takes 10-15 minutes to do a self-assessment. It's fairly simple questions, yes or no. One of the sample questions would be, have I a financial budget for the current year? Yes or no? And it's that simple. So if you're putting down no, one of your action items might be financial budget. So this is a quick template to show you what has to be done, who does it, and a time frame. So the item would be financial budget. The action is to develop a financial budget for the year 2026, and the responsibility is the treasurer and the financial committee. And I want that done by June 2026. So that's a simple action planning document. And we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. This document, this template is available on learning.gaa.ie. So you can go on to learning.gaa.ie and there's a wealth of information on that website. If you've never visited the website, there's templates, there's documents, there's videos. The Club Compass video is available up there to watch. There's videos on how to be a chairperson, how to be a secretary, how to be all that information is available up on the learning.gaa.ie. It's well worth, if one of the few items you take away from here tonight is visit that website and see what templates and what information is available to you to support your role.
Mike, I just stuck into the chat there, guys, a link to all I've done a search and for all the resources and courses and self-led stuff that's on Tour that applies to you as a club officer. So the link, if you click on the last link, that'll take you to all that there. I've also put in some different links to the GA's club chairpersons resources that are on Tour as well. There's access there to the LGFA administrator pathway, which will give you role descriptions for every single role that is in a club, and it applies across Gaelic games as well. And then there's also a registration link or a page that's called the Club Summit, which we might get into maybe later. Mike, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Look, there's so much resources available to you as a club officer, provided to you by Croke Park. It's unbelievable. You just need to get an understanding of where the relevant information is. As Niall did there, he dropped in a link. You can click on that link. There's a vast amount of information there. The other, like learning.ga.ie, there's templates, there's documents, there's booklets. There's so much information available to you. Like, I know an Excel like this would be simple to produce from an action planning perspective, but why reinvent the wheel when it's available from learning.ga? You just download it and you can tailor it to suit yourself. So this is just a quick kind of action planning document. And the report from Club Compass, you can use the output from that to fill your action plan. And then it's up to you to say, right, what has to be done? Who does it? And when do I want it done by? This can be a live document that you can bring to your club AGM. You could use a color convention: red if something's overrun, amber if something's coming close to being overrun, and green, complete. So at a glance, when you open up the document, you can see straight away where the pain points are. So and that can be a live document you can take to AGMs. Similarly, like a document like this and the Club Compass would be two great documents that you could come to the AGM with and say, right, this time last year we were 55%, this year we're 65%. These are our actions that we were working on. You can see all the green ones that have been completed all the amber ones we're working on, and ideally try to have limited red ones. But if there is red ones, and there's nothing wrong with red ones, but have an explanation in terms of, yeah, one of us got sick, we overran that by 2 months because of it. We're hoping to get back on top of it this time next year. There's nothing wrong with overrunning deadlines. And you when you're setting deadlines, you need to be realistic, because like everybody would love a AstroTurf within their grounds, but you're not going to get an AstroTurf built in a year. You need to be realistic, and if you're creating an action item of a AstroTurf, there's a lot of tasks that need to wrap around that, from fundraising to finance to planning to contractors. So you need to be realistic and say that's not a 1 year action, that's a multi-year action. But you could break that down into simpler tasks and say, right, we in the first 6 months are year 1 fundraising, year 2 planning and appointing a contractor, and year 3 on-site complete. So you can break that down a little bit further. As you can see the examples here on screen, like one is a new mower, one is a club draw, and one is arrangements for a game. So what the action is get a price for a new mower. Who's going to do it is John and the pitch committee, and when does it need to be done? 15th of March. Simple. Then club draw. Explore the idea of 50-50. A lot of clubs have gone from your tickets to your 50-50 draw. So explore the idea of doing a 50-50 draw. How would it work if it was introduced into the club? It's Mary and the financial committee, and it's the 10th of March. And that's simple. It's not implemented. It's just explore how it would work within the club. And then arrangements for games. Make final arrangements for the trip to Portlaoise for the under-14 final. So that's the action that needs to be done. It's Kieran and Anne written here. So you appoint people who do it, and you say that needs to be organised before February 16th. So it's a simple document that you can track all these items on. And as I said, if you add a bit of colour to it, as in a red, if something's overrun your agreed deadline, amber, if something's coming close to your agreed deadline, and green, if it's completed, at a glance, you get a good understanding of where your items are at. And again, as I said, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. This can be downloaded from learning.ga.ie, and it's a template you can use going forward. Where do I get more support information from? And we've touched on a few of them. Look, the club constitution is something that our equivalent is something that everybody should be aware of. It governs the affairs of the club. It covers a wide range of areas. It's a thorough knowledge of it. A thorough knowledge of it is required. You don't need to know it off by heart, but you need to understand how to read it. It's one of these kind of documents where it's chapter and verse. It's chapter 3, verse 4, item 2. So once you understand how to find items, it's fairly easy to navigate through it. You need to maintain it up to date. We're lucky enough that we're within an organisation that every single member has the opportunity to influence how the organisation is run. Any club member can propose an item that may be ratified during the meetings and be introduced into the club constitution. There's very few organisations that allow that to happen. Every single member has the opportunity to influence how this organisation is run. That said, there's consistent changes to it. It's consistently been updated. When I say consistent changes, there's yearly changes being made to the club constitution. You have to make sure that you keep an up-to-date version. Don't, like, historically people would request a copy from Croke Park and keep it in their clubhouse. But look, we're in a digital age now. You can download the club constitution and store it on a laptop or store it within your SharePoint on OneDrive. But you need to maintain it up, keep it up to date. It's pointless downloading it this year, and if you're a club chairperson for the next 5 years, never again downloading it, because by the time you finish, it's out of date. And you need to uphold or equivalent. You need to uphold the rules and regulations set out in the club constitution or equivalent. Like if you want to find out what the appeal process for a red card is, the club constitution will tell you that. If you want to find out about membership, the club constitution will tell you. You'll find about subscription fees, executive meetings, executive committee. Who do you need on the executive committee? What voting rights people have, what assets and trustees are, what books and accounts need to be produced, what about income and property, about any additions or amendments to a rule. Like if I want to find out how do I appeal a red card a player got last Saturday night, I go to club constitution and it's detailed step by step what I need to do and how do I appeal it. And if I'm successful, it's all detailed within the club constitution. So it's one of these documents that people need to be aware of. The club constitution or equivalent is a key document that the club's chairperson needs to know about. So where else do I get information from? And kind of, as I said at the start, you're not the first chairperson of the club. There is multiple chairpersons before you. There's multiple ex-officers available to you. So never be afraid to reach out to ex-chairpersons, ex-secretaries, ex-bureaus. They have learned from mistakes. They have committed a number of years to the club. They know a lot of do's and they know a lot of don'ts. So never be afraid to reach out to the ex role holders. They're a vast source of knowledge and they're always willing to help you. They're never going to shy away from you. The county secretary is a great resource. Here within Kerry, the office is signed free. There's a number of staff inside there, and one of the staff is Kate. Kate is exceptional. Like if you send an email to the county secretary, it's more than likely Kate is going to be replying to you. But Kate, and I probably shouldn't be saying this out loud, Kate probably knows more than the county secretary. She is exceptional. She knows everything, and she is always willing to help. So much so that there's been slight arrangements made that Kate will commit to extra hours just for supporting the clubs. So part of her job now isn't just like one of the girls in the office. She is a club liaison officer or club supporting officer. So you can contact Kate directly. And Kate is exceptional. You have the county planning and training officer. Again, you have the central and provincial staff. And you might say, oh, how do I get in contact with them? Within the GAA, the naming convention for email addresses is consistent. It's your role. No, sorry, it's your club, your role, your county at gaa.ie. So theoretically, everybody here tonight knows everybody's email address. And not only knows everybody's email address here tonight, knows every single officer's email address within the country. All you need to know is what club you're dealing with and what officer you're dealing with and what county. So it typically follows, it is, the naming convention is your club, your role, and your county at gaa.ie, or some variation of that. I can't remember now properly off the top of the head, but it's simple. There's a naming convention. Again, when it comes to county officers, all counties will have websites. County officers' contact email address and contact number, phone number will be quoted on the websites. So you should never be saying, I don't have their contact. They're all available. Simply have to look for it. And they're all willing to help. Part of their role is to support you and support the organization. So they're never going to say, oh, Jesus, he's ringing me again. Their role is to support you. Their role is to help you. Same thing with the central and provincial staff. Their contact information will be available on the learning portals of the GAA, the LGFA, Camogie Association. So you can't be sitting at home. You should never be sitting in a dark room saying, oh God, I'm lost. I don't know what to do. There's so much resources available to you and so many contacts available to you. You should never be afraid to contact these people. There's the official guide and there's the club constitution or equivalent. That's another great resource to have. There's Tour learning portal that Niall's dropped the link into. There's the governing bodies websites, Croke Park. There's the relevant counties. There's learning.gaa.ie. All these resources are available to you at a simple click of a mouse.
Mike, I was just going to say, I've actually dropped in links to each association's website, to the club constitution, to the LGFA official guide and the Camogie Association official guide. Probably another point is that for anyone here that's part of a one club, you not only have your GAA county secretary, you've actually got 3 county secretaries. You've got 3 county planning training officers or their equivalent. So in the LGFA, that would be your volunteer lead, or in the Camogie Association, that would be your county development officer. You've got 3 loads of provincial and central staff, and I think we're lucky enough to have Sharon Haughey is the Ulster GA volunteer development officer. She's on the call tonight, but there is obviously her equivalent in each province by 3 for the 3 associations, and just make use of them as well.
Absolutely. All this information and resources are available to you. Use them. As I said, you don't have to design a action plan. Look, if it's available on learning.ga.ie, download it. Use it. You can tailor it to suit yourself. You don't have to spend hours like creating templates. There's so many templates available to you on learning.ga.ie that you can use. There's sample club compass reports. You can look at what a sample club compass report looks like and see, okay, yeah, that looks good. This is a good step that we could take. There are sample club plans. You can see, okay, how do people, and when it comes to club planning doesn't have to be a bound book. A club plan could be 2 or 3 pieces of paper. It just needs to be a live document that you track, that you bring to the executive meetings, or you bring to your AGMs and say, right, our club plan is this. We want to go from X to Y. This is how I'm getting there. So it just needs to be a document that you can actively view and track what your steps to get to the next part of your plan is. So there's loads of resources available to you. And like, I do know that there's club rivalry, and club rivalry is great within the GA, but the club rivalry should never stop me being able to contact a fellow chairperson down the road and just have a civil conversation and say, right, we can't agree a fixture for Saturday. Can we agree a time on Sunday? It should never develop into a roaring match. You should be able to have a civil conversation with any chairperson. And what I find these kind of sessions, even though it's online, you're seeing fellow officers. So you might see somebody from your county that you mightn't have realized as a club chairperson, that you might know from another organization, you might know from work, you might know from a parent at school, or you might know from a teacher. These kind of sessions are great for networking, and particularly the online ones are okay, but the ones in person are brilliant because you're talking to fellow officers with you. And you're getting an understanding of what their fears are, what their positives are. You're getting an understanding of how they're running. So networking is key, and getting an understanding of your fellow officers and knowing your fellow officers around the place is another key element to this, so that I can ring a person down the road who's a chairperson in the neighbouring club without it evolving into a roaring match. So the resources are all available for you to complete your tasks. Never be afraid to ask. As I said, never be afraid to contact the county secretary. It's their role to support you. You should never be sitting in a room saying, Jesus, I can't ask that. They've heard it all before, and they've heard a lot simpler questions than anything that you can ever think of. They'll answer you with respect, and they'll support you going forward. That's pretty much it tonight, guys. And apologies, I did drop off there for a while. I don't know what happened. I was talking away to myself for 20 minutes in a room to myself. But there was a feedback form. Look, it's not mandatory. You don't have to complete it. That's pretty much it. We are 1 minute out. I'd like to ask the members here now, how did you find tonight? Did you take much from it? Do you think it was worthwhile? Do you think it was advantageous to you? The key here is, if you take one point here tonight and take it on board, that's an achievement. But I'd like to get opinions from people in terms of what they feel was good and bad this evening.
There was a couple of questions in, maybe Mike, when you were away. Now there was a couple about the treasurer resources, and I just had said that there's resources for the treasurers in their own presentation, and that slide will be sent to your club treasurer as well, but also on Tubber. Yeah, a lot of just very, very good presentation, Mike. There was a great one in there from, if I find it here, from Mark Taylor, and who's in is it Peru or Chile? Mark, I forget which, but he's obviously starting Gaelic games out in South America.
That's right. I'm
Go ahead,
here. I'm
sir.
here in Chile. I'm here in
In
Chile.
Chile.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
that's it.
And obviously Roger Keenan from Ulster GA was out visiting you not so long ago, and it's great to hear you have set up the club and you're doing so well out there. And you've got great support from Roger and from Kieran McLaughlin as well. Great to see.
Yeah, good stuff. I have a colleague online as well, Giovanni, and he's in the team in Paraguay. He's online as well. So no, the trip from Roger out here was brilliant, and just again to reinforce this evening's meeting, it was very, very good, an excellent presentation. Thank you both, and thanks for everybody else who put some comments in the chat. It was really useful for us. Thank you.
Just I tried to share the feedback link, but it doesn't seem to be working for me. So and I'm sure Jack will send that out.
I'm sure Jack will send it out.
Yeah.
It's not mandatory, but look, if you want to leave feedback, look, it's all welcome. Positive or negative, it makes no difference.
The link works. The link is working. Yeah, it's working. Yeah.
Positive or negative, look, it helps us to develop these modules and get better. If that's it, we are 9:01, so we're just on time. If nobody else has any comments or feedback, guys, thanks for coming. Hope you took something from it. And if you have any questions or queries, please contact ourselves or Jack.
That's right. Thanks very much, guys. Thank you everyone. Take care.